I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited that you chose me. I was really trying to create that. So
good. Now get out. Or was there something more?
Yes. I was wondering if I could get your take on supernatural or paranormal activity, ghosts, basically. Some people believe, and I question, I think I believe too, past lives or parallel lives, depending on your perception of time. Is it possible that we could have a part of our higher self that's actually kind of stuck in some kind of environment, haunting a castle in Scotland somewhere?
Where to begin? It's such a big topic because every thought that has ever been thought still exists. And law of attraction causes a coalescing of thoughts. And enough of that coalescing, if you are tapped into the energy of it, you might be able to translate it visually. And that's what a ghost is. It's a visual translation of congealed energy. The question is it the spin-off of man's conscious mind? Is it the spin-off of source energy? In other words, could it be that source energy has set something in motion and it hasn't quite come to fruition, and so you're just catching it before it does? And we say, really, Esther had the best experience with this early on in her Abraham experience. Both Jerry and Esther were sort of tentative. They weren't sure where this was going. They weren't even sure who we were. They only knew that we felt good to them, but they had no way of validating or substantiating who we are or where we come from. They had no way of testing to find out who we were. They could only judge by the fruits of what they were experiencing, you see. And so early on, they did a radio show in Dallas. They were living in San Antonio. And a woman who heard Abraham on the air came to the very first gathering and became very good friends with Jerry and Esther later. And once she became friends, she related this story to them. She said, I was on my way to the hotel to meet with you after having heard Abraham on the radio. And in my mind, I projected a very powerful thought. I said, all right, Abraham, I want to know who you really are. Are you angel or devil? Which sort of lets you know where she was in the scheme of things at that time. And so she came into the room, and it was a small gathering of people, and Esther remembers sitting, as she always did at that time, and closing her eyes, as she still does, and relaxing and setting forth her intention to receive clearly Abraham's energy and to speak clearly Abraham's words. And Esther remembers opening eyes and Abraham looking right at this person for a very long time. And Esther remembers thinking, I wonder what's taking so long, because usually Abraham begins to speak right away, but nothing was coming. And so many weeks later, this woman is telling Jerry and Esther that in that first meeting with Abraham, that Abraham filled the room full of angel wings as Abraham looked into her eyes. And Esther only recalls that something different was happening and that it was taking a very long time for the segment to get going. And so when we explained that we knew what this woman's question was, and we presented the energy that she interpreted, Esther receives blocks of thought and expresses them verbally. This woman receives blocks of thought and expresses them visually. There are many people who are interpreting energy, and they are seeing all kinds of things, you see. And many of those things that they are seeing, they're calling ghosts, or they're calling spaceships, or they're calling angels' wings, or they're calling angels. In other words, there is so much to be interpreted when you are in this physical world, where many of you are agreeing on what you are seeing as you are interpreting energy into the reality that you call real life. And then you want to say, because I can see it, then everybody must be seeing the same thing. And it is sort of true in that your platform is stable, but you are so different in your ability to interpret. It's like the dog can hear sounds that you can't hear, and so you might be very clear that the sound is not there because you do not hear it. And yet the dog is clearly responding to something. The dog can smell things you can't smell, things you don't want to smell in many cases. The dog has many physical senses that are much more acute than your physical senses. But that doesn't mean that the dog is making it up, nor does it mean that individuals who are having these different experiences are making it up. They're having their experiences based upon the vibrational latitude between their desire and their belief. As Esther began receiving us, and different people would sit in the chair and express their different things that were happening to them, in the beginning Esther would say to us, Abraham, why are they lying? Because their experience was so different from her own. And it was a very long time and very often that we said to Esther, do not judge anyone else's experience through your own lens, because every experience is different, you see. So we want to sum up this conversation about ghosts or spirits or anything that you might see that somebody else might or might not see by helping you to understand that there is all kinds of energy, and some of it is the spin-off of man's mind, and some of it is that which is being projected from non-physical, and much of it is, and these are the words that we heard from you that we like the most, some of it is your future probability. In other words, you've filled your vibrational escrow full of wonderful things that are congealing and taking form. And sometimes you get a glimpse of what you've created, wanted and not wanted, before it manifests. That is, in fact, what your entire dreamscape is about. How do you explain your dreams? In other words, you go to sleep, you lie in that bed, you know in any real sense of the word it is not reality that is happening, and yet your dreams are vivid replications, they are accurate depictions of the vibrational offering that you are offering on a regular basis. So we think that the line is very thin, and we want it to be very thin, the line between my thought and my manifestation. We want you to understand that all of it is out there. And when you think of the billions of people on the planet today and the billions that have been on the planet before, you've just got a sense that there's a huge array of vibrational energy that can be manifested into thought forms or into ghosts or into whatever you want, and eventually even into reality. It's all part of the process. The question isn't, does it exist? Of course it does. The question is, in what way do I want to play with it? And the answer must be, if it feels good, I'll dabble. And if it doesn't, I won't. And there's no right and wrong in it. Just don't make the mistake that Esther made for a while and assume that just because you're not hearing it or smelling it or seeing it, that they aren't too.
Could you speak as to the validity and reliability of kinesiology?
No.
No.
Because it isn't any of our business. If it's working for you, it's reliable and valid. End of story.
Okay.
You don't need our opinion.
Okay.
We'll tell you what it is, though. When you believe something, in other words, it's a form of alignment.
Right. And to me, it's almost an externalization. If something comes to me, if I walk into the health food store and say, okay, what's going to help my cold? It's going to come from an intuitive thing, and then I'll go test it out. I'm not going to go around the store testing everything. So to me, it's only as good as my intuition. It's my guidance.
We've sort of been on this subject all day here today, haven't we, in one way or another? And what the basis of this question is, Abraham, I basically don't trust myself to know. So what contraptions or methods do you have which will help me know that I'm on the right track? And then we scream, have you heard nothing from us? Well, you have guidance within you that is letting you know. And it really does not matter what form it takes. In other words, when you say, I want to know what's best for me, please help me to know, you can identify any signal that you want, and your inner being will play that game with you. We've been waking Jerry up at 555 every morning for about 217 days now. He woke up once, saw it was 555, liked it, so we wake him up every morning at 555. Very simple. And every morning when he wakes up at 555, he lies there and feels satisfied that he has been awakened at 555. In other words, he knows that something is going on. And if he wakes up at 554, he just assumes that the clock is wrong.
Okay, so there have been double-blind studies with kinesiology that don't typically work well.
Excuse us. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you were speaking? We are borderline mocking you. And there is no real reason for that, except that you don't believe in the questions that you're asking. And so what's the point of this conversation? In other words, have you decided that this thing is invalid and you're wanting us to substantiate the invalidity of it?
I think that I listen to you when you say that individually, if you believe in it, it works.
So do you want it to work? In other words, the reason that we are approaching this in this way is because we really do not want to validate anything that needs validating. In other words, we want you to say, Abraham, I found this thing that works for me, and I don't give a rip what you think about it. That's really what we want to hear from you. But what we hear from so many of you is, well, I found this way and I think it's the right way, and I see these people over there doing something different and I don't really approve of the way they're doing it. And we say, do you realize that your disapproval of what they're doing just messes up your energy, and then you blame your messed up energy on them doing something different when your messed up energy doesn't have anything to do with them? You're just using them as your excuse for your messed up energy. And so then we want to say to you, just decide what you want and line up with it and use whatever way. The universe will yield to you through the crack of your least resistance the best path for you right here and now. But then don't get on your high horse and exclaim to the world that you have found the one and only path, because there is not one and only path. There's just the best path for you right now. It's really not different than Esther driving down the road and us knowing there's something in the road and steering her around it. And then she could write a book. How to steer around this thing in the road. I was driving down Interstate 95 on my way to Boca Raton when there appeared a terrible thing in the road, and this is the way I steered around it. And you'll find it at mile marker 116 if you will look for it. And so always be on alert when you're at mile marker 116. And then you will have the advantage that I had of steering around this terrible thing in the road. And people reading that would say, well, that's sort of dumb, because I really don't think that thing in the road's still going to be there in the road a year from now. So this book is sort of not very important to me. No, Esther would say, this was an important thing. It was given to me by God. I know that you must know about this thing in the road at mile marker 116. And we say, just give it a rest. Everybody has their own guidance system. We really do not need to indoctrinate everybody with everything that we think is important. We don't know how you keep from just going out of your mind with all of the things that all of the people are wanting you to know and follow and eat and not eat and do and not do. How do you even stand to stay in your lives, you see? Okay. It's this way, it's this way, it's this way, it's this way, it's this way. And we say, just find something that you want and sort of point toward it and just sort of start moseying down the road. And if it brings you joy, move faster toward it. And if it's not so fun, choose something else. But don't make a big deal out of everything that everybody's thought. Esther walks in a bookstore and says, this place is nuts. So many philosophies, and everyone's sure that they've got the one right thing. And all along, you've got guidance within you saying, this is the best way from where you are right now. But it's not the best way for you forevermore, and it's not the best way for everybody on the planet. This is the best way for you right here, right now, is what your guidance is saying, you see. So when you get in sync with your guidance, there's a tendency to say, oh, this worked so well for me, I need to tell the world. And we say, or not. Let their guidance tell them. Let their guidance guide them, you see. So what we've got going here is we're just guiding you to guidance. We're not the guidance to guide you. We're just guiding you to guidance. Here is the sentiment that we would like to become rampant across your planet. No matter who you're interacting with, we would like you to find some way of conveying to them your appreciation of who they are and where they are right now. We would like you to be able to express to them, whether you use words or just a glance of the eye. We would like you to say to them, I love you where you are right now. And if you really want to follow it up and be a powerful, beneficial influencer, you might follow up with a glance or a vibration or words that go something like, you will always find your path, and it will be different from almost anybody you know. And if you really want to follow it up, you could say, and I know that you have guidance within you that will always keep you going to that which your life is revealing to you. And if you really want to follow it up, you would say, and there is no one on the planet that you could adequately or accurately follow, because you are carving out your own magnificent, unique life. And if you really want to follow it up, you could say, and you have guidance within you that lets you know in every moment your relationship with your life as it is unfolding. And then you could go on to say that you are source energy in a physical body who has come to let the contrast inspire you to becoming more, and that a large part of you instantaneously became that more. And that part of you is now calling you forward. And that you could use whatever method you want. Call it gut instinct, call it emotional guidance, call it kinesiology. It doesn't matter what you call it. You are being beckoned by that larger part of you toward that which you have become. And if you can get that across to yourself or to anyone, then you, or the one you got it across to, is destined to live happily ever after. to live the fulfillment of what you came forth to live. And anything else, anything other than that, anything that says there are rules that you should follow and when you follow them you'll feel better, or you are supposed to be something that you're not, or you are disappointing someone somewhere, or you're not fulfilling your reason for being here, anything of that nature just separates you from the truth of who you are.